Hi there. Welcome to the Ratliff Mandolins workshop and this week's episode of the Ratliff Mandolins weekly production diary. Come on in and I'll tell you all about a phone call I had this week. I had a really nice phone call this week from a gentleman, and we were talking about mandolins and many other things, including last week's video. And if you'll recall from last week's video, we were carving the heel buttons on these mandolins, and I had run a 3 or 4 second clip of me actually doing all the gouge work and everything. And he said, "Boy, I would like to see that entire process of you taking this the big bulky heel and getting it down to your final shape just before we tackle it with sandpaper." And so I said, I've actually got the entirety on the clip. I actually just turned the camera on and did the work. I just clipped out 3 or 4 seconds to put in the video. And if you'd like, I will be happy to run that for you. And he said, "Oh boy, would you?" And I said, "I certainly will." So that's what we're going to do right now. It's about a 5 or 6 minute clip of me carving, chisel, gouges, and rasps and that sort of thing to get the final shape on the heel button. I'm going to run that clip right now. Like I said, it's about a 5 or 6 minute clip, and I'm not going to put any music or anything to it. We're just going to let the sound of the rasps and the gouges be the music and the background track for that clip. And stick with me. I will be back, and when I come back, I'll be happy to fill you in on all of the other things that has happened around the Ratliff Mandolins workshop this week. So we'll see you in about 5 or 6 minutes. And so there's the clip of the heel carving in its entirety. Hope you enjoyed it. And as for the stuff that got done in the shop this week, we started gluing the fretboards on our batch of 10 plus the 3 extras. Started off the week by getting the fretboards ready, which meant choosing the wood, starting the binding on them and the appropriate bindings for the appropriate mandolin, because some of them have black binding, some of them have Taurus, one of them has a cream ivory binding, so all that had to be sort of sorted out. Put in dots on the face of the fretboard where those were appropriate, side dots on everything, of course, choosing whether the fretboard end is going to be square, have that little Florida extension. So there's a lot of kind of sorting out and getting everything lined up for mandolin number 5, and mandolin number 7 had the appropriate fretboard to put on it. Mandolin number 10 was the first one that had its fretboard glued on, simply because I had a head start on the binding job on that. I had already had one that was had the appropriate binding done from last batch, and so I went ahead and glued that on. Now mandolin number 10 is going to be a master model, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I would like to tell you that I got the fretboards glued on 2 of them, mandolin number 10, mandolin number 6 here, which you've already seen just a second ago. Today I have the fretboard set up for one of the extra mandolins, and so I will glue that on just as soon as I'm finished with this video, I guess. Now back to mandolin number 10, I'm going to let it, next week, I'm going to let it sort of come here and leapfrog ahead even further, because it is a master model, which means that it has to have inlay put in the headstock, and headstock will be bound all over. And so in fact, there's actually 3 master models that are going to have to more or less leapfrog ahead, and we'll get those where we'll glue a piece of binding today, and that's all we'll do. We'll go back here and work on more fretboards, and then I'll come back to the next day and glue another piece of binding, go back in there, so that hopefully that job will get done when the other mandolins start amassing in this room here, which is the preparation for finishing room. And so we pretty much have mandolins now that have everything glued on them. They're finished. They just need to be finished, prepped, and all cleaned up and sanded down and wet sanded, and all of those processes to get it ready to shoot the stain and the lacquer on top of them. But we have entire mandolins now, so we're making a great deal of progress. Why don't you come back and check with us next week to see what kind of progress we make then. Tell all your friends and relatives and neighbors about the Ratliff Mandolins weekly production diary, and I would appreciate it if you'd come back next week and we'll visit again. See you then.